The process of making art is essentially taking an inward journey outwardly. Allow me to explain. When people take an inward journey through any kind of contemplative practice, whether it's a meditative state catalyzed by TM or whether it's psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy, it is said that when people take these inward journeys, you have to provide a safe space. You have to hold space for the person. You have to basically protect the person from the outside world. They have to be free from having to manage external concerns, right? So that they feel safe enough to take a journey inward, right? And so the orientation of the mind can shift from Darwinian survival-based orientation to a more contemplative, poetic, whimsical, and creative state of being and mode of perception. And so we take these inward journeys and we come out of the experience usually inspired, cleansed, detoxified, connected to something larger than ourselves, freed from the burdens of everyday living, and all this is good. That's why they say meditation is so good for you, right? There's a host of cognitive benefits associated with taking inward journeys, with daydreaming, with forest bathing, with losing ourselves, with surrendering to the moment, etc., etc., etc. But most of these inward journeys are had in private, right? You have the contemplative transformation, the journey within, and maybe you might come out of that and write in your journal and integrate the experience. Fine. But what if I was to propose that there is a third way? There is another kind of inner journey that can be expressed outwardly. You still need to meet the same criteria. You still need to hold space. You still need to protect yourself from the concerns of the everyday. You have to shield yourself from the world. Something that works really well, I think, is a beautiful, epic, mythic landscape with nobody around. Because what happens then is the inner journey can be expressed outwardly, and you can actually appropriate the landscape into your inward journey. You can use cues from the environment to actually orient your meditative journeying. The journey within and the journey without bleed into each other. You cross the streams. You fuse cognition and dream. You enter the imaginal reality, but it's expressed outwardly. You don't do it with your eyes closed. You do it with your eyes open. And I think that these poetic reveries, these poetic trances that are essentially, again, inward journeys expressed outwardly, can be used for the purposes of art, for the purposes of poetry. They can be used to express and articulate ineffable states, right? It is during the poetic trance that you can see the world in a grain of sand and heaven in a wild flower and hold infinity in the palm of your hand and hold eternity in an hour. That is only possible when you're unbounded in your inward journey and you express that outwardly. You are free from the constraints of self. You are having a mystical experience. You are having oceanic consciousness. All of that is happening, right? The hallmark of a contemplative practice. But it's happening outwardly. It's a creative way of actually documenting the inward experience outwardly so that it can be shared. It's a way of turning the mind inside out as it's in flight. And I think this is the essence of creativity. This is where the artists go. This is the poetic trance. This is a transitory state of enchantment. This is when all of our realities become dreams. And when all of our dreams become realities. And then at the end, you have a work of art, right? You have something that you can behold. You have your ecstatic painting. You have the song recorded. And people can marvel. Why do we marvel at this art? Because, my friends, The transcendent shines through the mattis in partially articulated form. The sublime shines through. People recognize great art implicitly because they can see the infinite expressed in tangible, bounded form. The artist contends with the unknown, with the unbounded, and he reins it in, fits it in a frame. Whew. That is the insurrection. That is the creative exorcism. That is the creative art, the creative act.